Hey everyone, Doug8798 here, back for another review, and this time I'm reviewing the DC animated universe, which aired throughout the 90s and 2000s. With that being said, the first cartoon I'm going to talk about is the Batman animated series, which of course started it all. Love the Batman animated series. Huge fan of the Batman animated animated series. I appreciate it for what it's done for modern cartoons and just how they redid a lot of the things in this cartoon. I love how they turn how um, creators Paul Dini and Bruce Timm turned Freeze, Mr. Freeze, a normal campy ice gimmick villain, into this tragic anti-hero in the Batman animated series, and I loved it for its inclusions of characters like Killer Croc, Man Bat, the Wolfman, Clayface, and another one of my favorite and two of my other favorite villains, Bane and Ra's al Ghul. Um, and then I love the two movie specials. The first one, Batman and Robin Sub Zero, featuring the character Mr. Freeze again, and Batman Mask of the Phantasm, featuring a mysterious villain who's just like Batman, called who's a woman called the Phantasm. Um, Mask of the Phantasm, that's what it's called. All those were some of my favorites. Then yeah, that was Batman series. Now for the Superman animated series, the second one. Oh man, I love this cartoon. I grew up with this cartoon, just like with Batman. I love how they redid a lot of things. Of course, before I saw the DC animated universe, Batman and Superman, I I, I watched the cheesy Super Friends um cartoons, and in the final one of my favorite bad guys from the DC universe, Darkseid. Um, in the last two seasons of the Super Friends cartoon, he was toned down. He was more campy and wanted to marry Wonder Woman. Here he's fearsome and more and in a more threatening position, like he was in the original comics. In one tragic scene, he killed I think the guy's name was Turfman. He was based on life real life cartoonist Jack Kirby. Man, that was an tragic and awe inspiring moment in Superman, in the fight with Superman and Darkseid. Man, I had never seen Superman get that down and dirty and violent. And then I loved it for including other characters like Metallo, Brainiac, this purple guy who I keep forgetting his name, but he was an awesome villain too. This new character, this I think she got struck by lightning and got lightning powers. I keep forgetting her name, but she was a new character created for this show. And of course, I love what they did with Bizarro. What's his name? Didn't like what they did with Luthor. Thought he was I always thought he was a ripoff of Kingpin from Spider-Man. I prefer the campy Luthor from the Super Friends cartoons with the gadgets and the power suit. That's just me. But the Superman animated series was awesome, and I'm glad this and the Batman animated series are back on TV today. The next series I saw, and I think this is set in the same universe as the Superman animated series, and that is the the new adventures the new adventures of Batman Batman the New Adventures, which features Dick Grayson as Robin from the original series. He in this series, he's grown up and is split from Batman and has become Nightwing. Batman has a new sidekick, Tim Drake, who of course is the Robin that wears the red costume. I think Batgirl was in this show too. And Batman and Superman crossed over several times in this series, just like they also crossed over, I think several times. I think once in the Superman the animated series. Um, Like I said, I like it. I like its inclusions. This was an awesome this was an awesome sequel to the Batman animated universe. I love the new art style. I love them bringing back characters like Bane, Bane and Freeze, and I love them for including characters like including Dick Grayson as Nightwing and including Tim Drake as the new Robin. Awesome, another awesome show. Um, the next show, of course, was the sequel to the Batman animated series, Batman Beyond. Okay, I love this cartoon, but I had lots of problems with it back when I was a child. The main character, Terry McGinnis, he was badass and sometimes relatable as Batman, but in my opinion, he was way too whiny and wasn't likable. He was more like a Robin character, which was joked about in one episode. Um, and I didn't like anyone else other than Bruce Wayne being Batman, but Terry McGinnis was awesome. Another thing I didn't like about his show is I didn't like his the friends he hung out with, especially I think her name was Dana. I thought they were unlikable. I didn't like those women, especially in that episode with the rat. But I'll talk more about that in a future full length review of the Batman Beyond animated series. And I loved the season finale, which I think was the movie special Revenge of the Joker. The Joker that appears in Revenge of the Joker, that is my favorite. That is my number one favorite incarnation of the Joker, man. That was just badass and just an awesome storyline. Yeah. What was the next? Oh yes, the next show. Next show is all right. This is a show I've actually just recently. I recently only watched one episode of this show. I didn't see this show when I was younger. I just recently watched one episode. This is the Zeta Project, which of course is based on a robot character named Zeta, who who Terry McGinnis meets in Batman Beyond. This episode spun off into its own series. I just saw one episode and it was pretty good for being an original cartoon idea. This is unlike the other shows. This is not loosely based on anything from DC Comics. So from creating a cartoon from scratch, from what I've seen so far, this cartoon is pretty good. I'll give a full length, more in depth review on it later. Next cartoon, Static Shock. Okay, this cartoon was a great cartoon for Kids WB. I enjoyed watching it back when it was on Kids WB. The only thing I had a problem with is that I loved Static Shock's sidekick. I keep forgetting his name. I think his name was Gizmo. No, his name's not Gizmo. I keep forgetting his name, but he was a computer tech guy, a computer tech crime fighter type guy. I thought he was awesome, but in Static Shock, he was somewhat a relatable character, but I just thought he was annoying. And a poor man's version of Spider-Man and Black Lightning. I've never really been a fan of the Static Shock character as a whole. I hated his dreads. I felt the show tried too hard to appeal to African American culture, and I just never liked Static Shock. I'm a huge fan of a lot of black superheroes, but I consider Static Shock and that Miles Spider-Man, that Black Spider-Man, to be some of the worst black superheroes ever. But this was still a good cartoon. I just always thought Static Shock was a poor man's Black Lightning, I think he's somewhat based on Black Lightning, one of the very first DC black DC superhero. But that's just me. Next show was Justice League. Love the Justice League show, man. Love the Justice League show. Just like what Batman and Superman did. Just like what Batman and Superman did to the Super Friends, reimagined these heroes in a different way. The Justice League did the same way. They reimagined the Super Friends in a much more mature and darker tone. And I love them for including superhero, the Martian Manhunter, and Black Green Lantern, John Stewart, in place of the much longer serving and well known Hal Jordan. But yeah, this was an awesome awesome episodes. Two of my favorite episodes is the episode where where John Stewart, the Green Lantern, gets framed for a crime he didn't commit, and he has to face trial, and he does battle with the Manhunters. And another favorite episode of mine was the episode War World. War World. I also loved how this show totally redid Aquaman. This is probably the most badass interpretation of Aquaman I've seen in this show. I'll do a more in-depth review on the Justice League later. Next is Justice League Unlimited. I love Justice League Unlimited. I love them for continuing the storyline from the first show and including any more superheroes like Dr. Fate, who you see right there in the blue and yellow, Supergirl, and another hero I'm not really a fan of, but I thought he was awesome in the Justice League International series and in Justice League Unlimited. And I think his name is Captain Atom. Captain Atom, he was all emo and brooding in this show, and in Justice League International, he was comical, which the Justice League International comic book series was mostly an action comedy and not serious like the other ones are. Other Justice League comics are, but this was an awesome show, and I love the season finale with, I think, the Legion of Doom and the Justice League teaming up to fight Darkseid, who Luthor accidentally releases, and Luthor, I think, sacrifices himself to kill Darkseid, but Batman at the end says they're alive, but the show ended right there. But yeah, this was an awesome epic series, and Justice League Unlimited, one of the last good shows Cartoon Network really had. One of the best things about Cartoon Network in 2004, which in my opinion was when Cartoon Network started going downhill. But alright, this was my review of the DC Animated Universe. Like I said, I love the DC Animated Universe. I appreciate it for what they've done for modern cartoons, and the DC Universe for what they've done for modern cartoons, inspiring cartoons like Young Justice, the Green Lantern animated series, and other cartoons that were somewhat overshadowed by the DC Animated Universe, like Batman, Brave and the Bold, Legion of Heroes, and the very popular Teen Titans. Alright, Dog 8798 out.